and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader, along with me, Tim Dennis. You know what I love, Tim?
What's that?
I love when I'm looking for good guests, and I'm wondering, boy, all of these names, I see them popping up everywhere. People are constantly kind of just doing the circuit. I wish I could find some untapped potential, somebody out there that hasn't been seen or heard 1,000 times. And then I open up an email.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, "Hi, Dave. I love your Darkness Radio podcasts. I find them hauntingly fascinating, entertaining, and informative, especially the Demon Haunted Land episode. My name is M.R. Gorga, and I'm releasing my new book, Demons Among Us, Shocking Real-Life Stories from the Paranormal. That comes out February 16th. So just a few days ago, folks, this book became available. And he reached out and said, as a podcaster, I think this book will offer extraordinary value to your audience. It includes the first fully documented eyewitness account of a demonic possession in American history, reported decades before the Salem Witch Trials, real personal encounters with black shadow spirits, inhuman entities, visions, and terrifying nighttime visitations. And if that wasn't enough for you, Tim?
Yeah.
The book also covers how dark forces influence the world around us to deceive and destroy and even kill. So are you at risk? We're going to find out today. M.R. Gorga, our guests, thank you for reaching out. This sounds fascinating.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
You know, like I said, it's always funny to me when I'm sitting there and I'm like, gosh, I've got to find some new guests. I want to find somebody interesting. All of a sudden I get just emails out of the blue from people. And yours, again, a nice breath of fresh air. And certainly our listeners love when we talk about some of the more darker, twisted aspects of the supernatural. The book, again, is called Demons Among Us, Shocking Real-Life Stories from the Paranormal. Let's start with your background. Is the paranormal always been prevalent in your life, or was this something that took place later in life?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. You know, I grew up in the time in the era where Amityville Horror came out in the 70s, and the Son of Sam was all over the news. And so I really kind of grew up in this really haunted kind of time period. And, so I always found myself, writing, and it's always been in me. And one of my first stories I ever wrote was in 4th or 5th grade. And, and it was about some like haunted mummy or something, something creepy. And I thought I was going to get in trouble for it. So my teacher, he called up my parents, and I thought I was going to get in trouble. And he was like, you really got to enter him into the college, writing club. Your son has a real talent for writing. And I thought I was going to get in trouble. But when he was really excited about the writing, I was turned out to be pretty happy. So
very cool. Now, was your family, did they have a belief in the supernatural or the paranormal?
Not really. I really wondered why they let me watch that Amityville Horror movie, though, all these years, because it must have had some kind of indelible effect on me. But it was something that stuck with me, that haunting, just all that haunting material just really kind of stuck with me all these years. But they didn't really have a background. I mean, they took me to Catholic church as a kid and everything, but I guess like everybody has some sort of fascination with it, but nothing too deep,
All right. Yeah. I just like to kind of set the stage and get an understanding of how this all kind of unfolds in your life. Now, you obviously were affected by that movie, and did you start to have paranormal experiences yourself, or did you become kind of the librarian of supernatural occurrences as people would open up and share their tales with you?
Well, these are let me be clear. These are actual personal accounts in the book, is my own personal accounts of the own happenings with the demonic and with paranormal experiences in my own life. And it also has like the historical account of the first fully documented eyewitness account of demonic possession. So these are actually my accounts and no one else's except the historical account. But What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Well, I was, yeah, again, just kind of, excuse me, wondering, if this was something that you just collected other people's tales, or were you affected and impacted by the supernatural as well?
Yeah, no, these are all mine, except for that historical account. So, but they're all my own personal experiences, and once you delve into them, they are pretty creepy and they're pretty scary. So you'll definitely want to read it with the lights on.
Well, at what point in your life did this strange and unusual start to happen to you?
Oh, that's a great question. At around, I would say somewhere around 26 years old, um, I had I became a believer in Jesus Christ, and what happens after that is that really sets you up, opens your eyes to the spirit realm, sort of happening all around you. And what that also does at the same time is it sets you up as a target for demonic assault because you're now, an enemy to dark forces. And so that's what, and it started happening immediately. And there's an actual story in the book where the attack comes very quickly after making that decision.
Really? So it was
Yeah.
pretty much after you kind of committed yourself to God, to Christ, that suddenly you became an enemy of the state, as it were.
So to say, yes, an enemy of the spirit realm, spiritual state, so to say. Yeah, for sure.
What was that first attack like?
That one came up, and you can read about this in the book. I tried to put it in detail. It was one of my first time I was actually in prayer. I knew nothing about prayer. I knew nothing about anything. I just, was just a decision I made to, to accept Christ. And I can remember being in prayer, probably for the first time, and then I just felt something behind me, some entity or something, and it was like like when you cringe your shoulder to your ear, you just know something's behind you. And then from behind, right at my right ear, said, "You may have gone to God, but you belong to me. You will always be mine." In a very, very subtle voice, very smooth sounding voice, but it had the undertone of, you could sense the wickedness behind it.
And did you feel threatened? Did you feel like this was coming for you, or did you feel protected because of your current stance?
It was a little bit of both. I mean, it was like, at that precise moment, it was, you feel very threatened because, whenever these kinds of things happens, it comes with a really a dark, palpable force that's almost tangible. And I know you've been around this stuff for a long time, so you just sense that presence of evil. Something's there, and it almost comes with like this paralyzing power that it makes you believe what it's saying. And so it comes with just that strange, strong, forceful power. That's, again, you can feel it.
Now, once you kind of this door has been opened and the dark side has acknowledged you, again, a lot of people turn their lives over to Christ or are reborn, but don't deal with this. Why do you feel Amar Gorga became a target for this?
Well, all of the who turn their lives over to God in that manner, they target. But what happens is once you start moving and becoming stronger in faith, the stronger in faith you become, the more of a target you become, because those forces don't want you to proclaim God. Those forces want to try to keep you from making disciples of others or followers of others. And for me, I function in a high capacity as an intercessory prayer leader at church. So when you take that kind of office, you really set yourself up as a again, an enemy of the state. And so, again, the higher you go, the higher the devils, or the stronger the devils.
All right. Now, talk to me about some of the other strange things that have happened to you and how you have dealt with dealing, with this type of phenomena.
Yeah, there's been a lot of nighttime attacks, nighttime assaults, demonic assaults, nighttime stranglings. And I'm sure you've heard of this stuff before where, you're sleeping and all of a sudden you feel this paralyzing sensation and you can't move. And, and then all of a sudden there's something around your neck, a choking, an iron hand, so to say. And it's quite scary because, again, it comes with that sensation and that powerful, dark strength and, chokes the wind out of you and you can't breathe. So you sit up, you sit up and all of a sudden you're just being choked to death by this invisible enemy. And so there's a lot of things that have happened in that regard. There's been lots of. The
question is this then, help me out with this, MR, because
sure.
Obviously Tim and I come at this from a Christian perspective. That's all we know. We understand every religion has different strengths and belief systems and how to deal with the darkness. But the one question is, if we are committed to our religion and to our belief system, why are we not shielded? Why is MR Gorga exposed to these attacks? You would think once you've thrown up that cloak of Christianity or that cloak of religious indoctrination, that the dark side, although they would like to break you, would have a harder time getting through instead of it suddenly becoming easier.
Well, I wish that was the case of it becoming easier. And when I have a true answer, I'll definitely let you know. But I just think it has to do with, creating this, deeper dependency on God for that protection. Now, when we have Jesus Christ in our lives, we do have that protection. In fact, that's the only thing that can break the power of these demonic attacks, because I can't pull out a gun and shoot them. I can't wish them away. I can't burn incense away. I can't do anything to make them go away except in that powerful name of Jesus Christ. That's what makes them go away. And, because how do you fight an enemy that's stronger than yourself and invisible at the same time, right? And so I think that these things actually work to draw us, deeper or closer into God. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily make you not susceptible to demonic attacks. In fact, you'll go through them. Now, it doesn't happen every day, but it does happen, often, more often than not.
Do they try to attack your loved ones then? If you're shielding and you've got the ability to kind of cast them away, do they try to end around you by affecting your animals, your family, children, parents? What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I think that the demonic realm uses everything at their disposal. And it doesn't come like, they don't come at me with, knives or anything like that. But you can definitely see when you're being harassed or when you're being, they're just coming at you in a different way than what they normally do. So there is a such thing as that kind of harassing spirits or, those discouraging kind of spirits that they just want to be a nuisance in your life.
Well, a nuisance, that sounds like poltergeist activity. That sounds like something that's just kind of irritating. But when you're dealing with the demonic realm, they're obviously there to try to destroy, break, and kill you or get you to take your own life, correct?
Yeah, and that is true. That is true. There's a difference between oppression and possession. Oppression means that they're trying to kind of subdue your life. They're trying to prevent you from walking in the fullness of the power that God wants you to walk in, and that just create this oppressive or depressive kind of just depressive sort of things upon you, right? You know, deep depression, oppression, and all those kinds of things. And then there's possession, which is the extreme form. That's when you've allowed things into your life, and there's a manifestation and a takeover, and they move in bodily. That's possession. But most of the times, you'll deal with oppression and you'll deal with manifestations, but possession is the very rare case.
When you are squaring off with these entities, with these energies, are you capable of seeing them? Are you given the gift of divination so you can see what it is you're dealing with? Or are you just sensing that this energy is around you? Or do they leave physical contact marks?
That's a really great question. A lot of the times, and many of the times, it's invisible attack, but there are stories in the book where they've showed themselves physically, and that's when I've experienced the choking sensation and woke up and I just kind of took authority or commanded it to go away, and then you see this black spirit walking / gliding across the apartment floor and through the wall. And then there's been other moments where there's been things at my bedside, which is, if you've had a chance to see the cover of my book, it was a very, very similar kind of face that was a spirit being that was looming over me. And that was the first time I've ever actually felt its touch. Its hand was creeping up my chest. I don't want to give away all the details because it's a story in the book, but it was quite a frightening experience to be actually physically touched for the first time, having had so many episodes where they were visible, or it was like, that kind of invisible power. But that was one of the first times where I could physically feel it touching my body, in physical form. And it's weird because you could see through them, but they're 3D, but yet you can kind of see through them as well. So it's a really weird kind of spiritual property that they have.
And with this, do you get the sense that these are beings, these demons? So many of us believe these are just cast down angels, or they're creations of the devil. Do you think that these are tortured souls that have been corrupted, human souls corrupted by the dark things that they've done here, and this is kind of their penance to draw others in? Or, what exactly do you think you're dealing with these individual beings?
I think that they're fallen angels, that they have been, cast down out of heaven, and they've become these enemies of God and enemies of mankind, because mankind has the capacity to obtain the favor and blessing and love of God that was lost to them. And so their attacks are because of jealousy towards mankind, because they have mankind has the opportunity to experience all that they lost in heaven.
So there's it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other when it comes to what these beings might be then.
Yeah, could you explain that a little bit?
Meaning, well, I'm just wondering, some are human tortured souls, some are machinations of evil itself.
No, I just think they're all malevolent devils, and they're all fallen creatures.
Okay. Now, you've talked a little bit about some of your first experiences. People talk about shadow people encounters, and the jury seems out on exactly what it is we are dealing with.
Yeah.
I've found in most cases, it seems shadow people almost seem more like watchers, perhaps even sometimes guardians, because they're witnessed at times when, you're sleeping and you wake up and notice there's somebody standing over your bed. And once you get past that shock and awe, it's not really fear you feel. As a matter of fact, many people admit rolling over and falling back asleep. To me, that's a level of comfort. Or is that part of their game? Do they put you back to sleep to affect or impact you? What do you believe shadow people truly are?
Yeah, I believe that they have the ability to transform into all kinds of figures, ghosts, and things of that nature. I believe that they have the power to deceive or make you believe that they can show up as shadow people or deceased loved ones. I believe that they have the power to trick you into thinking that you're seeing what they want you to see. So they have the power to mimic, loved ones' voices and things of that nature to deceive. So I just think all of these things are demonic masquerades.
Oh, so they're aspects of the demonic. Does that mean you believe then that ghosts, the things that people witness, are demonic masquerades as well? That's a pretty popular theory, that the spirits we encounter are nothing more than the demonic realm challenging our beliefs in what comes next.
Yeah, I think that's a really great take on it. I believe that they are demons masquerading as ghosts. Now, why they choose to play that role, I don't know. Like when you have a ghost that's the 18th century ghost in a mansion and has been there forever, why they choose to play that role, I have no idea. But a
lot of times these ghosts bring comfort to people. They see their grandmother sitting on the end of their bed smiling or giving a message of peace or love. Why would a demon do that and then never appear to them again once that's happened? Or do you think that there is a window where human spirit can interact with us?
I don't believe. Well, that's another great question. Why would it appear kindly or smiling or whatever? It's a great question. I don't know. I don't know of many instances where there's really kind of a kindness. I never really experienced it to where I've encountered a demon or a ghost and it said, hey, it's a great time to call your mother. Like, it's always some sort of, evil thing that they're trying to compel you to do. Or so why they would appear smiling and offering comfort, I don't know. I believe there's an element of deception in it. And that could be just to kind of keep you from focus, from knowing things about God and knowing things about heaven and knowing things about Jesus. I think that all of these things kind of have some form of deception to them for whatever reason that might be.
That's where the whole conundrum gets really confusing for many of us, right? Obviously the Bible or aspects of it seem to allude to, not consorting with necromancing, which means speaking with the dead, or seeking the counsel of divinators, mediums, or psychics. Yet many people in the Bible were given that gift. And many people were considered prophets to receive these messages. So it seems like in one breath, we should accept these gifts. Jesus Christ himself says that which I do, you can do as well. Mm-hmm. So he's acknowledging that he has these powers and that they are innate abilities within us. But then in another breath, it's a sin to look into these things. It's it's very perplexing and confusing. And I think that's why in general, many people are turned off by the religious aspect of dealing with the paranormal.
Yeah, I mean, the church has done a real good job of, making a circus of things. And And so there is a confusion between the two. I think that there are prophets, and God had made prophets, but then there are also false prophets who prophesied. You could read about that. There was a guy named Balaam. They wanted to pay him to prophesy against the children of Israel. So you also have these things that are false prophets and false divinations, and we really have to kind of put our trust in Christ, to where He's giving us that true power of the Holy Spirit to operate and function with the power according to His power, and not the power according to the demonic realm.
Okay, and I know we'll probably get a lot of emails about this topic, and then maybe sure. We can even have you back to visit with us, and we'll go through some of these emails to discuss different aspects of this itself. Now, again, folks, I do want to mention the book is out and available now. We've got a link up for it on today's program guide, so you can find it easier. Demons Among Us: Shocking Real-Life Stories from the Paranormal. When you talk about visions, give me the definition of what a vision is to you.
Yeah, a vision is different from a dream. Now, the dreams, that they kind of like come from concerns and cares, and we dream about things at work, and we walk into work with no shoes and things of that nature. But visions are something that's really divinely given to communicate something, and for me, they're given by God to communicate something to man, what He wants you to know. And there's a vision in the book. I don't want to get into too much detail, but it had to deal with the nation, the state of the nation, and what God intends to do. And so He'll give visions to mankind, and He'll give visions to people, so that you will know what He's doing according to His plans. So He'll let you in on the things that He has planned, and that's what a vision is to me.
How do we discern, though, which vision is coming from the light or from the dark? Because some of the visions that I've heard people have been given are very apocalyptic and sometimes very dark and terrifying. And you would think, why would God show somebody this, especially when they're not given the ability to do anything to prevent what they're seeing?
Yeah, right?
Yet they claim that it is a vision from God. If people are wondering where they're getting this information from, in your opinion, what do we use to discern that info?
Yeah, that's some of those visions. Some visions, and some people have visions. Some people are just liars. So you got to kind of you have to use discernment. You have to have a deep connection to God to understand who is a liar, because there's going to be people who sound like it's really the real deal, right? Or this really is a plausible thing, but as in the Bible, there's always been liars, right? And so you really have to have your ear fine-tuned to God to know the difference when it's deception or when it's not. And those things will always be revealed by God, so you're not deceived. And so the difference for me is, they vary differently from regular dreams, where these visions come with such an intense impact and intense vision, and it comes without fear. And whenever you get anything from the demonic realm, it usually comes with a sense of fear or anxiety, or just something not quite right or good. But when it comes from above, when it comes from God, it comes with power, it comes with authority, and it comes starkly that it was something imparted from God into your being and into your spirit. So I can't, if you're not a believer, I can't quite explain what exactly that is, but it's something that God does to those who know Him.
All right. Uh, and do you have a website people can go to or a place they can contact you if they're having kind of a crisis in their own lives, trying to discern what they're dealing with?
Yeah, you can reach right now mrgorga.com. It's under construction. Hope for it to be up soon. You can catch me on Facebook at mrgorga on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram m.r.gorga on Facebook.
We've got links up for some of those on today's program guide as well. Let's do this. We need to take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll discuss more with our guest and talk about some of the historical accounts that he documents as well. The book, Demons Among Us, Shocking Real-Life Stories from the Paranormal, continues right here on Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the program. This is Darkness Radio, your home for the best in paranormal talk radio. We are here with M.R. Gorga. His book, again, Demons Among Us, Shocking Real-Life Stories from the Paranormal, came out on February 16th, so it's out and available for you right now. The perfect Valentine's Day gift for yourself or a loved one, so you could pick it up. Maybe you're like me, miss dates sometimes, and you got to do a lot of makeup. This would be a great makeup gift. You talk about the first fully documented eyewitness account of a demonic possession in American history. And this, as you said, was reported decades before the Salem Witch Trials. How did you stumble upon this story?
Oh, wow. Well, first of all, this story is just so incredible it needed to be told. And it's been buried in history, and it's been glossed over in books. And it's just one of those stories that really, really, really deserves to be told in the manner that it's told in the book. And I went through 350 years of history in order to really kind of bring this whole story to light, these characters and the setting and the people. And I've went through, parchment papers with, calligraphy on parchment paper kind of history. And I really took a deep dive in order to bring this story to life as it should be told. And the story entails a town minister and his maid. And his maid she was 16 years old, and she was showing signs of possession. And what this guy did is he wrote down, journaled day by day for almost 90 days what was happening to this young maid. And this historical account was, again, I had to go back 350 years to dig out this research. And the story is very, very haunting and very, very disturbing. And it's an eyewitness account notated blow by blow, and it's quite shocking.
Well, obviously you want to save some for the readers, but giving us kind of an overview of this case, to tantalize, what can you tell us about it?
Wow. Well, she would exhibit these signs and behaviors, yelling, screaming, shrieking through the home, supernatural strength, well beyond her years. And she was, she would have these visions of specters, or say that they were these specters of her neighbors. And there was also apparitions that she had seen as well. And the whole thing was, was she in league with the devil? And this becomes the crux of the story. Was she, or was she not in league with the devil? And so I explore that in the book, and it's, haunting. So hopefully that your audience will love it.
You said that there are dark forces that influence the world around us with the capability to deceive and destroy and even kill.
Yeah.
If that's the case, why isn't there just mass death and murder on a regular basis? Because there are so many people that are in dark places in their lives that you would think it would be a contagion of epic proportions.
Well, I mean, I think that there is mass death all around us. I mean, the world we live in, there's, there's wars and there's crime and there's killing. I mean, it's happening all around us every day. It's just not, you just don't see it all the time, right? Well, there are avenues that dark forces use to manipulate and to deceive and to really kind of just bring you over into their line of thinking and into their schemes. And I talk about some of those methods in the book, and some are going to be very, very shocking, and some are, when you talk about being deceived, it doesn't happen just in one shot. It happens bit by bit by bit by bit, little bit by little bit, until finally you're kind of in that dark place. So it happens very subtly and oftentimes very gently, and they're able to do that to persuade you little bit by little bit. And then all of a sudden you realize, how did I get here? And that was one of the things why I wanted to write the book, is because there were so many people I've seen, so many people's lives destroyed by drugs or depression and just these things. But there is an element, a spiritual element behind all of these things that cause people to destroy their lives.
Well, and I get that. I mean, but some of it is just, mental issues, deficiency in chemicals, things like that. I mean, we can see a demon in every cupboard if we go looking for one.
That is true. And that is true. Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, though.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. Okay. So I'm not discounting, psychology or psychiatry or anything like that. That has its place. But it's also, I believe, time to start looking at demonic activity and spiritual activity. I think it's time we start giving credence to these things actually exist, and people are actually influenced by it, even without them knowing it.
The violence that's taking place, the culture that we're surrounded in, we're always looking for that bad guy we can point a finger at, MR, right? We want to have a villain to chastise, to shake and be angry at. Some of it's just human nature, though, right? I mean, just the aspect of sometimes people are just assholes, and it has nothing to do with demons. It has nothing to do with the dark side. Right. But does it? Is there this demonic influence on people done in subtle ways that make us think, no, that guy's just a jerk, when in all reality, there's something else at play here? And is there a tried and true method to test that in order to discover if we're dealing with something darker or just a jerk?
That's a really great question. Well, I certainly agree with you. There are many, many assholes in the world. Now, is every asshole in the world demonically oppressed or oppressed? Chances are no, right? But there's also a great chance that their thinking has been influenced by dark forces, or their decisions have been influenced by dark forces or demonic powers and influence. Because the thing about the demonic realm is that it's basically a system of government in a sense. So, it happens all around you, and it's like gravity. It'll get on you and in you, and so you're functioning according to its principles without even knowing it. Now, no one, you don't have to run around like a rabid animal to have a demonic influence. It could just be like you're a liar, or or you're trying to cause division in someone's relationships, or so it happens in these real subtle ways that it doesn't have to be a beast or monster running around with a pitchfork or anything. It happens in very, very subtle ways to cause havoc in people's lives, and that can happen very subtly.
What can we do as individuals to start setting ourselves apart and protecting ourselves from darkness? For those, I know understanding go to God, but listen, in one sense, it's kind of a fearful place to go because, like you said, you become a target. It's got to be kind of terrifying for some people that have to face that element.
Well, there is that, and the power that you get from God when you God in Christ, the power that you get from that is far superior to the attacks that you get from the demonic forces, from satanic strongholds, and I fear God more than I fear the devil. So. He is to be feared more than these forces, but you have greater peace, power, assurance, sound-mindedness, and strength and revelation that God gives you, and it outweighs these attacks that come every now and again.
Do you find that and maybe you can answer this better than anybody else could for us in the past, seeing things from the paranormal, having a fascination and an interest in yourself, and then also being of a religious ilk. Are people that are religious drawn more to the dark side to understand it, or is it because we're being gently influenced without our knowledge?
So let me try to understand your question. So you're asking if you're religious, you're prone more to believe in the paranormal. Is that the question?
No. Do you? Does God? I'm trying to figure out a clean way to frame this. People that are religious seem also drawn to the paranormal aspects. Mm-hmm. And sometimes in understanding or researching or watching scary things. Is that because, we know the one side, we want to know the other, or is it the dark side influencing us to try to push us into learning things that may shake our faith, shake our beliefs?
I just think that there's a human fascination with these dark things, and therefore we just kind of gravitate to looking at that. It's why we watch movies like The Conjuring, or Amityville Horror, or whatever, or The Exorcist. Or whatever. I just think that there's this real human intrigue into these really dark, dark content, dark movies and dark books, and I just think that we have this human interest in it. I don't know how much of it is of dark forces impelling you to look at it, but I just think that we really have a fascination with this dark stuff.
Can that set people on a path that could become potential, or no, because people are going down that path, the demonic doesn't really start to attack them that way?
Well, I think it depends on what you're dabbling. So if you're dabbling in like occultic things, and you're opening doors, you're basically inviting demonic into your world. Well, then yeah. But if you just have if you just enjoy scary movies, well, then you just enjoy scary movies. Enjoy it. Eat some popcorn.
All right, cool. Yeah, just because people have a lot of fears. We even have people that say, Dave, I'm worried. I love your show. We are entertained by it. We love the humor of it. We love the strangeness of it. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we're fearful that by listening to this, are we opening ourselves up to negative forces because you're talking about them. You're giving these powers light. And obviously we go out of our way to avoid naming certain dark names and forces because we don't want to give them that empowerment. What do you say about that?
I have no fear in naming what dark powers. When you're in Christ, you don't have that kind of fear. God gives you a real power to overcome that kind of fear. So I don't have that kind of fear. Quite honestly, I watch The Conjuring or The Witch all day long, which is one of my favorite movies, and so I have no fear in that regard of it. Influencing. I know who I am in Christ. I know what God has done in my life and the power that He's put in me. So that kind of fear doesn't exist in me. But I can see how other people would be afraid of if you're looking at it too long, it's going to kind of open up a door. I would say this: just be, careful and conscious of what you look at. And if you're dabbling in things of the occult nature, stop, because you're going to open up a door. It's going to be, you're going to open up a door. You're not going to like what starts happening to you. So.
All right. With all that you cover in the new book, what are some of the other points that you want to make sure that our listeners and your readers will be aware of?
Yeah. I think that the book is going to be like a real eye opener to how forces work to influence your everyday life without you even knowing it. I think that's going to be a real eye opener for most people. I think that the real encounters that they're going to read are really going to be, really satisfy that creep factor that people have. And I really want them to read that first fully documented eyewitness account of demonic possession. I just think they're going to really enjoy it for the historic factor of it, for the period in which it takes place, and I think it's something that they're really going to love. So it's an all around read. It covers a lot of ground, but I think it's going to be a real eye opener for most to see how that dark paranormal realm really works in everyday life.
All right. And what other points in the book are you excited about sharing and exposing?
Well, I'm really interested to see how people are going to respond to one of my third chapters. In my third chapters, it has one of the encounters that we talked about today about the figure at my bedside. I'm really interested to see how people respond to that, because the creature or the spirit itself was quite creepy and wholly unhuman. So I'm really interested to see what they think of some of these these black spirit encounters or these nighttime visitations. I'm really excited for the readers to read that and see what they come away with. I really want to hear what they have to say on that.
All right. And when people are opening themselves to education and to the concept of the supernatural and just, all the different depths that it entails, do you feel that they should go through any kind of ritualistic training as well on protection for themselves?
You mean like burning sage or anything like that?
Whatever might be part of it.
No, all the protection needed is in Jesus. It's just Jesus. And it's, people fail to recognize how powerful and supernatural he is. And that's all the protection you need, and that's the only thing that's going to defeat and destroy demonic powers, and to be I don't want to say shield, because, you might encounter some of these attacks or something like them in the book, but he will give you power over demonic forces.
All right. And do you look into the different aspects of other religions and belief systems from Native American to other cultures to see how they align in dealing with the supernatural as well? And if so, what have you found?
Oh, that's a great question. No, I've come across, various stories, here and there. And I think a lot of these cultures actually conjure witchcraft, outside of, and they operate outside of the will and purpose of God. I think a lot of cultures open up spiritual doorways of the demonic, and in those practices. But again, it's just in order to guard against those things. It's Jesus. I study the truth to understand the lie.
And I get that. I get that aspect of it. But, there are so many different religions that also deal with supernatural elements and fascinations, if you will. I just wondered if there's a common thread between them that shows, are we as humans empowered enough to deflect and denounce evil and the forces of evil? Or do we have to have a standing in a religious or theological background in order to employ it and actually make it effective?
Well, I don't think you necessarily need to have a background. Now, people are susceptible to the influence operating all around them. Some it works in more in others, and less and some less in others. You don't have to have a background per se. I don't have a doctrinal background in say religion, but I do have a relationship with Jesus Christ. So that's where, for me, it's different, because I don't consider it, being a follower of Christ, religious as people think of religious. I think of it more in the sense of a relationship, and in that relationship, I get all the protection I need from demonic forces and strongholds and plans and schemes that would be plotted against my life in the spiritual realm.
All right. In looking at the big whole scope of the supernatural, and you start seeing aspects of ghostly or demonic interference, which also seems to mirror things like alien intrusion and alien abduction scenarios. Do you believe that we are dealing with beings from another planet, or is this another aspect where the aliens are, or the aliens are nothing more than demons playing on our fears?
Yeah, I'm as fascinated with that topic as anyone else, right? And it is, quite a topic, and you start to see all these sightings, and then you read these things from the FBI reports or whatever that comes out. But ultimately, I do think that they are an element of demonic deception. And, I've never seen an alien, right? So I can't completely speak to it, but in my estimation, I would think that it's a form of demonic deception.
So you don't believe that we necessarily are being visited by otherworldly creatures?
No.
Okay.
No, and even when you talk about like spacecrafts or UFOs, and you see the how they're able to maneuver, but just cutting a right angle at 9,000 miles an hour, it's not humanly possible. And it doesn't mean that it's, well, they have this technology from another world. No, it's just a function that's not even, it's just not possible the way I see it. And so to me, there's a spiritual component to it, a dark spiritual component to it, in order to deceive, and keep your focus off of God.
And what about looking at other aspects, things like Bigfoot, Dogman?
I love Bigfoot. You know,
Okay.
yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because he must be one smart creature. Because how could that big of a creature be so elusive for so long? I mean, he's a really smart, hairy guy, right? I mean, I don't. I don't know. I mean, there are a lot of Bigfoot fans out there. For me, I don't know. I think it's a fascinating topic.
Yeah, I just wondered if you thought that these were more things to pull us away from our focus on religion again, or is this something that ends up being, a distraction, and that these beings don't exist? The Loch Ness monster,
Right.
Because it seems like a lot of the times. And I don't necessarily understand it. Personally, I don't understand why aliens would upset the balance of nature in the religious world. Are we that arrogant a species that we believe we are all that a creator with God's potential would do? And he would settle on this one spinning rock out of the vastness of the galaxies and universes and only breathe life into one little muddy planet. It seems strange to me. So why wouldn't these beings exist? Why wouldn't these things? To me, that's a wonder. That's the power to show what the capabilities of a God or the God or the universe or the essential being of light that exists. These are all things that are positives, but a lot of people do end up twisting them and turning them into negatives, that they are evil beings. How do you answer to that?
Well, God is definitely capable of creating worlds. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he's created other beings. So I can't quite, since having not seen them, I can't quite say that, he has or hasn't created other beings. But the fact that his eye is on this planet and the people on it, well, that would just make that much more special, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would seem it, but again, we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, in examining these mysteries. It's nice to know that maybe there are some things left to learn, that we can't just, assume that the all the mysteries of the world have been examined and, we, the human race, have already figured it all out. I think it's exciting to think that, no, we haven't even, scratched the surface yet. And that there's more out there. Do you think that's why things are being tipped now, where we're seeing leanings towards alien disclosure? You've got Oklahoma representatives opening up Bigfoot hunts. Is this to bring us into the new world with open eyes?
I couldn't say actually what it is, but I will agree with you that there certainly is lots of mysterious things out there. And I don't claim to know all of the answers. That would be very arrogant of me. But that, when you start talking about Bigfoot and aliens, certainly it's intriguing and it's fascinating. Do I have all of the answers on these topics? No, absolutely not. Right.
Obviously, there's no one definitive answer. Right.
Yeah. I mean, could there be creatures out there like the Bigfoot? It's possible. I mean, I don't have the answer, but it's possible.
What if the Bigfoot beings were the ones that were created in God's image, and the rest of us are just tainted bastards? We're the Anunnaki. We're the offsprings of the devils and Sasquatch figures. That could be it. Our punishment is we lost all of our glorious hair. Tim and I lost even more.
Right, exactly. Yeah, well, that would be awesome. So we would be the spiritual bastards then.
You said it better than I. Fascinating stuff, MR. Thank you so much for stopping by today and chatting with us. It's always interesting to have our eyes open and concepts re-examined that we think we're comfortable with and think we know.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I mean, it's really been a great time. I'd love to come back if you have me back on, but thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It's been our pleasure. Make sure you rate and review the book, folks. The link is in today's show notes and visit his website. That's it for today. We'll be back again next week with more of the best in paranormal talk radio. I'm Dave. That's Tim. You've been listening to Darkness Radio.